While gas prices might be dropping in some parts of the country, some states have more gas taxes that have been added this year. These new gas taxes, well, are state fuel hikes. And these cuts, no one is talking about. All at the same time, some states are below $2 a gallon. Some new taxes have already taken effect at the pump. These fuel taxes are quietly shifting across the country, and for millions of drivers and truckers, the changes will be felt every time they fill up. And some states are nudging rates up and down by pennies. Others are making far more consequential moves that reshape how transportation is funded and who ultimately pays the bill. Of course, you know that's you and I, the taxpayer. And fuel taxes rarely dominate the headlines, yet they remain one of the most direct ways government policy intersects with everyday life. Unlike income and property taxes, fuel taxes are paid in small increments, spread out over time, and embedded into a necessity for most Americans at the pump. That makes them politically sensitive, economically significant, and often misunderstood. Now, over the past year, more than a dozen states adjusted their fuel tax systems. Some increased rates to shore up transportation budgets strained by inflation in aging infrastructure, and others reduced taxes to ease costs for consumers and commercial operators. As 2026 begins, another wave of changes is rolling out, driven largely by automatic formulas rather than by legislative votes. The result is a patchwork of increases, decreases, pauses, and structural overhauls that reflect broader debates about infrastructure, fairness, and the future of road funding. Several states are seeing modest adjustments as of January 1st. Florida, Georgia, Minnesota, and North Carolina have implemented a small increase of about 1 cent per gallon, while New York, Utah, and Vermont are seeing slight decreases, also under a penny. These changes are not the product of last minute political deals. Instead, they come from automatic mechanisms baked into the state law, often tied to inflation or fuel prices. Nebraska, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia also allow automatic adjustments, but their fuel tax rates will remain unchanged as of the start of 2026. That stability, however, does not mean that the states are immune from future increases. It simply means the formulas did not trigger a change this cycle. So keep your eyes open for that. Now, automatic adjustments are becoming more common because they provide predictable revenue without forcing lawmakers to cast political risky votes. No one wants to raise gas prices, especially the consumer. Now, critics argue they reduce accountability and disconnect tax increases from voter oversight. That doesn't surprise me that there's a lot going on behind the scenes. But supporters counter that they keep transportation funding aligned with real world costs, especially as construction expenses rise. While small changes may barely register for an individual driver, larger shifts in several states deserve close attention. Michigan is implementing the most significant fuel tax increase taking effect this year. Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed a nearly $2 billion transportation funding package into law, fundamentally changing how fuel is taxed in the state. Currently, Michigan drivers pay a 31 cent per gallon state excise tax, and that's a lot on fuel, along with a 6% state sales tax on every gallon of gasoline or diesel. A key issue with the structure is where the money goes. Much of the sales tax revenue does not fund roads and bridges. Instead, it flows into the state's general fund. So in other words, you're paying for the general fund, and they're not fixing the roads and bridges. And I was recently in Michigan, and that is a fact. Their roads need a lot of repair. Under the new law, the sales tax on fuel is eliminated entirely and replaced with a higher fuel excise tax. This shift is designed to ensure that all fuel tax revenue is dedicated to transportation projects, aligning with Michigan's constitutional requirement that fuel taxes are used for roads and infrastructure. We shall see. The trade-off is cost. As of January 1st, the fuel excise tax jumped from 31 cents to 52.4 cents per gallon. For drivers, that represents a substantial increase at the pump, even as the state leaders argue the new system is more transparent and constitutionally sound. I think it's time those that live in Michigan take a closer look, because that doesn't sound very legal. But supporters of the changes say it corrects all the long-standing mismatch between how fuel is taxed and how the revenue is spent. Critics counter that drivers are still paying significantly more, regardless of how the tax is labeled, at a time when vehicle ownership costs more and is already rising. Michigan is not alone. New Jersey is also raising fuel taxes under a law passed in 2024 that allows annual increases through 2029 to meet transportation funding needs. The state's fuel tax structure is very complex, consisting of petroleum products gross receipts, tax combined with fixed motor fuel excise tax. I think it's complicated for a reason so they can jack up the prices and they don't have to explain how it is. For New Jersey, as of January 1st, the petroleum tax on gasoline rises 4.2 cents from 34.4 cents to 38.6 cents per gallon. The petroleum tax on diesel increases the same amount, from 38.4 cents per gallon to 42.6 cents per gallon, which makes things delivered much more expensive. When combined with the fixed 10.5-cent motor fuels tax, the total state gasoline tax reaches 49.1 cents per gallon. Diesel will be taxed at a 56.1 cent per gallon when paired with its fixed 13.5-cent excise tax. When you start adding those kind of numbers on the cost of fuel, everything gets more expensive because the delivery of things that go to market will get more expensive, and guess who pays the tax? You do, not just at the pump, but when you buy literally anything at a store. New Jersey's approach reflects a broader trend of using variable taxes to stabilize transportation funding. By tying part of the tax to fuel prices or revenue targets, the state aims to smooth out volatility and avoid sudden funding shortfalls. It just jacks up the price at the pump so no one can afford to drive, which is probably their goal. But the downside, particularly for commercial operators and commuters, is reduced predictability at the pump. The state of Oregon presents a different story. A scheduled 6 cents per gallon tax increase set to take effect January 1st has been put on hold, at least for now. Lawmakers approved the increase during a special session, raising the gas tax from 40 cents per gallon to 46 cents per gallon as part of the broader transportation funding package. After Governor Tina Kotek signed the bill into law, opponents launched a statewide petition drive to delay the increase until voters could weigh in. And organizers gathered nearly 200,000 signatures, enough to force the state to pause the tax hike until November 2026 election. As a result, the gas tax increase is suspended, along with planned hikes to passenger vehicle registration and title fees, more fees for the drivers in the state of Oregon. Other elements of the transportation package will still move forward, including a change that applies to motor vehicle fuel tax to diesel vehicles. Oregon's situation highlights a growing tension between legislative action and direct democracy when it comes to fuel taxes. Voters may ultimately approve the increase, but the delay underscores the sensitivity of fuel costs and the willingness of citizens to push back. And when they feel excluded from the decision-making, they push back. Behind these headline changes lies a complex web of automatic adjustment systems that now shape fuel systems in half the country. According to the National Conference of State Legislators, 25 states use this form of variable fuel tax. These systems operate in different ways. Some states set fuel taxes as a percentage of wholesale pricing, allowing revenue to rise or fall with the market conditions. Others combine a flat excise tax with a price-based component. Many tie adjustments to inflation using measures such as the Consumer Price Index or the National Highway Construction Cost Index to reflect changes in the construction and maintenance costs. That's assuming this money goes to roads and bridges. The timing of these adjustments varies widely. Indiana updates its fuel sales tax monthly, while Vermont adjusts its quarterly. Nebraska recalculates every 6 months. Alabama and Rhode Island make changes every 2 years, and Mississippi will begin biannual adjustments starting in 2029. Annual updates are the most common and occur in states including Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Utah, Virginia, Washington State, and West Virginia. For policymakers, these mechanisms provide a way to keep transportation funding solvent without repeatedly reopening the contentious debates. For drivers, they can feel like stealth tax increases that happen quietly and predictably, regardless of economic conditions. The broader question is whether fuel taxes remain a sustainable way to fund transportation in an era of increasing vehicle efficiency. Some people have gone to EVs, some have gone to hybrids, and some continue to keep the vehicle they have. And as fuel consumption per mile declines, states are collecting less revenue per driver, even as the infrastructure costs rise. That gap is driving experimentation with higher rates, alternative fees, and new tax structures. Some states are exploring mileage-based user fees. Others are increasing registration costs or targeting specific vehicle types. Fuel taxes, however, remain the backbone of transportation funding, and changes like those taking effect this year signal that states are not ready to let them go. For consumers, the immediate impact is straightforward. In some states, filling up will cost a bit more. In others, it may cost slightly less or stay the same. Over time, though, the cumulative effect of these policies shapes not only the household budgets, but also the cost of goods as fuel taxes ripple through the supply chain. You'll see it every day, whether you're going to the grocery store or going to buy something at literally any store that's delivered by truck. Fuel taxes may be collecting a few cents at a time, but they represent billions of dollars and fundamental choices about how roads are built and maintained and paid for. As 2026 begins, drivers would be wise to pay attention. What seems like a minor adjustment today often points to a much larger shift tomorrow. Shop around for fuel prices, use websites like Gas Buddy, and don't pay too much. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this, and check out our car review channel, Car Smarts. You can support me by buying me a cup of coffee, and if you want even more content, check out the links in the description. I'm Lauren Fix. Thank you so much for watching.